Ready?
We are waiting for Gina, but she can pop in whenever.
Oh.
If that's okay.
You sure?
Yeah.
Good to go.
Okay.
Just no crazy questions until Gina gets here.
Yeah, we all have our experts behind us. That's for sure. Okay, we are resuming the November 6, 2023 budget hearings. And right now, we will hear a presentation from our regional sewer district. Turn it over to Tiffany. You introduce your team.
Great, thank you. Tiffany Mag, Director of Environmental Services.
Eric McPeak, Deputy Director of Operations.
And then Gina DeWitt, who is our Fiscal, Administrative, and Utility Billing Supervisor, is going to be joining us here momentarily. So with
Okay.
that, we can get started. All right, thank you. So I'll dive right into the numbers here. The first slide we have is 2023 year in review. So up at the top, we have the revenues, and then at the bottom, we have the expenses. So kind of walking through those line by line. Capacity fees in 2023, we budgeted 10.1 million. We're forecasting the actuals to be at 9.2 million by the end of this year. We are currently at about 7.7 million. We've had a very strong August, September, and October. All three of those were higher than what we've seen throughout even the past several years for those months. We had a much slower beginning 2023, and now coming on strong with a lot of multifamily and things like that have been tapping in. So we're looking at roughly $936,000 shortfall from where we had planned to be with the budget for this year. Inspection fees and plan review fees, those are coming in right in line with what we had anticipated. At this time for 2023, we have had 22 plan sets approved, which in comparison to 2022, we had 33. So there were quite a few more plan sets last year. However, the developments are quite a bit larger. So the 22 plan sets, it equates to, hang on, I have the number. So the 22 plan sets equates to 1,560 new units, whereas in 2022, the 33 plan sets equated to 1,375. So we feel like 2024, you're going to see at least the same, if not more, new units that do tap in, because those numbers that we're approving this year are very similar, a little bit stronger than what we saw last year. And then we have the user fees, budgeted 20.7 million, currently forecasting to be at 21.86 million by the end of the year, which is about 1.14 million above what we had budgeted. And then other sources, this is the delinquencies, sewer tapper licenses, kind of the bucket of all other types of revenue. Had budgeted 800,000, 807, and are projecting to be at 648,000 by the end of the year.
What's with the user fees? Being up a fair amount over budget. What are you attributing that to?
I mean, is it anything beyond just additional units? More so than what we had
I was kind of looking
anticipated?
into that, and I really couldn't find, besides the additional homes.
Oop, Justin has a comment?
Sorry to jump in.
Great.
Justin Navi, Director of Finance. Commissioners, I think some of this, it's a percentage increase with the user fees that were adopted about 5 years ago.
Right.
The last of which is going to be implemented in February of next year, and that's in the budget for next year as well. So it's a combination of the rate increases and additional users.
I'm talking 23 actuals versus what was budgeted.
Right. I think I wasn't involved with the revenue estimates for the current fiscal year.
Right.
I don't know if those were kind of conservatively developed, but I think for me personally, from what I'm seeing, I think it's new user counts, and then there was a fee increase that went into place in February of this
Okay.
year.
Okay.
So,
Thanks.
Again, good to see, a little higher volume and usage than
Right.
what was budgeted, certainly.
So overall, the revenues came in, when you kind of balance everything out, came in very close to what we had budgeted for 2023. And then on the operating expenses down below, services and charges, we had budgeted just over $5 million for 23. We're forecasting to be at about 4.88 million, so very close to in line with what we had budgeted. Same thing with materials and supplies. We're looking at coming in about $50,000 under budget. Salaries and benefits, this one's significantly under budget, and you can see by the star with the note at the bottom. We had quite a few vacancies in 2023. Part of this was with our union negotiations. We really tried to start staffing up once we had those new union rates in place, and that's something that we're continuing to work through. But we had quite an array of different vacant positions in 2023 that accounted for that being under budget with that $730,000. So in all, right at $912,000 under budget for expenses. So any questions on 2023?
You say many vacancies, some of those have been filled during the year, or they've just, or is that for the whole year?
That was for the whole year. We are starting to staff up a little bit more now. We're still having some areas where we're having a harder time finding folks. I think we have quite a few collections, labor positions still open, maintenance technicians, things like that. But we have filled the lead operator position. We have filled a couple of the other relief operator positions, as well as the construction coordinator. Still looking for a staff engineer, looking for a truck driver, so there's a handful of positions still open. So as far as the proposed 2024 budget, talking about the capacity fees in the first line there for the revenues, like I mentioned, last year in 2023, we had budgeted $10.1 million. Next year, we are budgeting the 2023 forecasted actuals are $9.2 million, but looking at our 2024 budget, we're at $6.5 million. And that is certainly a conservative number based on the new plan sets that we're seeing coming in. And in addition to the multifamily that I'll talk about on the next slide, we are seeing some pretty strong numbers coming in to wrap up the year. So I'm anticipating us to be above $6.5 million. Inspection fees, those are just a slight inflation above where we were in 2023. We're looking at $835,000 being our budget for 2024. Same thing with the plan review fees, just kind of modifying those a little bit, in the positive trend for both of those types of fees. And then the user fees, we are forecasting to be at $21.8 million for 2023. So once again, a conservative budget for 2024 at the $21.3 million. And then finally, we have other sources. This number is a lower budget for 2024 because the Slate Ridge TIF was taken out of this revenue source and put into its own line item. So any questions on any of those revenues before I start talking about the expenses? So services and charges, we are budgeting $5.9 million, which is up. I'm going to talk about why on one of the upcoming slides. We're seeing a lot of inflation with the chemicals and the sludge hauling costs, things like that. Materials and supplies, we're at $1.497 million. Salaries and benefits, just under $7 million. Looking to fill those vacancies is the intention with that number. So just a total of $14.4 million then in expenses. So I'll dive into these numbers a little bit more on the next few slides here. So the first one is our revenues, breaking down both the capacity fees and the user fees and then the total number of taps. So you can see where we're at for 2024 in the far right-hand column there. I'm going to kind of walk through the text on the bottom showing how we came up with these numbers. So we're budgeting 325 less connections in 24 than we budgeted in 2023. This equates to 802 new taps, where we had budgeted 1,127 in 2023. Like I mentioned earlier, we've approved 22 new sets of plans through November of this year, whereas we had approved 33 sets through November of 2022. However, the number of ERUs is very similar. We're just seeing larger developments come through. Tap fee credits, we did have 226,000 this year compared to 445,000 last year in 2022. And then the next item is multifamily connections. We're seeing a very similar number for 2022 and 2023 at 355 units in 22 and 309 for 2023. Now the next one is the big one. So the 300 units, it's going to look small compared to what we're seeing coming forward for 2024 and then potentially into 2025. We actually have a little over 1,000 new multifamily units that are already in plan reviews or already approved. So we are expecting this number to really, make a dent in what we're looking at for 2024 as far as the new tap fees are concerned. And then finally at the bottom, the capacity fees are still $8,100, but the user fees will increase that final amount, which is 1.25%, to get to $39 per month, and that would exhaust all of the rate increases that we currently have planned. Okay, so these are some of those notable expenses that have increased our materials and supplies as well as our service and charges budget for 2024. The first one is our arc flash study. This is that electrical safety study that is required every 5 years to be completed. So we're due for a new arc flash study, and so we budgeted that for the consultant services in 2024. Sludge disposal is another big one. This has been expensive because we haven't had a truck driver. So we're looking to fill that truck driver position, which will also require us to buy a new sludge truck. That's something we've been putting off the last couple of years because we don't have a driver for the truck. So that the sludge disposal number will potentially come down a little bit if we can find a driver, but then we would purchase the truck. So this is something we'll certainly keep an eye on. Chemicals are $156,000 above what we budgeted for 2023. This is just inflation. It's I think polymer alone is like $115,000 more than we had budgeted for 2023. So we've come back with some supplemental appropriations this year for that. Centrifuge and belt press service. This is something that we need to do at the Alum Creek plant for the belt filter press that we have out there. It's a piece of equipment that hasn't been operated for many years, and we need to get that up and running. So we're expecting it to be a little bit more expensive in the near term to get that equipment back into operation. And then vac box rental. This is when we get into the tanks and clean the material and debris that's in the tanks. When we take a tank out of service and drain the tank, there's quite a bit of grit and sand and things like that from the filters that backwashes into these tanks that needs to be cleaned out. So we rent these boxes, put that grit and sand into the boxes, and then take the boxes off-site for disposal. So that is the majority of that expense is in the disposal piece. And then OECC, sludge, and blower building repairs. This is the last piece of that OECC building facade improvements that we've been doing. We've spent, I think, about $300-ish thousand to date, and have that last couple buildings to finish up on that for 2024. And then our central cost allocation has increased as well, so we're just making note of that. So this is the same figure that we've been updating since 2016 as we make continuous improvements and complete projects as we go. The pink are projects that we've already completed. The orange are in construction. Yellow is in design, and then the green is in preliminary design. So you can see there's very few white projects left that have not yet been started, and those would be started if and when they're needed through the hydraulic modeling updates that we do to make sure that we're staying out ahead of any of those bottlenecks becoming a real problem. Julie and I were working on a master plan update. I think a couple of those white projects are just going to go away because of other improvements that we've done in the system. So we've actually made even more headway than it looks like here. And then as far as pump station project update, Berlin Business Park Pump Station, this is pretty much complete. It's just sitting there waiting on the generator and some electrical components to be able to be started up. So really it's gonna be ready to roll whenever that development demand does come in that area. East Alum Creek Pump Station, this is on the east side of Alum Creek, just east of Africa Road. We're gonna do an in-house upgrade on this pump station this coming year in 2024 to be able to allow a lot of that development that's occurring around the outlet mall. There's some multifamily projects and different things that'll flow through this pump station. So we'll do a near-term upgrade, and then in the future, we would build a brand new station that would flow into the new treatment plant. And then Berkshire Township Pump Station, this one's still on the books. We would anticipate this likely to occur in 2025, just based on development demands and likely when the interchange is moving forward. So then we have our look ahead at future development areas. This is, where we spend a whole lot of our time right now, is the Central Alum Creek treatment plant tributary area, which is the blue shading on the map, and then Harlem Township is gonna be the next big one, which is the yellow shading on the map. So Central Alum Creek, as you know, we're working on finalizing our preliminary design and permitting right now, working very heavily with the Army Corps. We plan to resubmit based on the letter that we did get from the Army Corps. We've been working through with our consultant what our options are moving forward, and they've advised us that they think it'd be in our best interest to repackage, kind of go back to the drawing board on what that submittal needs to look like, and make sure that we're checking all the Army Corps' boxes that they have for us to check.
That repackaging, is it gonna add a lot of cost?
No, it won't. I think it's more, they've asked a lot of questions or left a lot of things in their letter for us to address. So we really need to just go through the process of addressing those questions and exhausting that response as far as we possibly can. So that's what we're gonna be spending the next few months doing, in coordination with probably talking to our congressman and trying to get some motivation that way as well.
So what about the existing site then? Is that where you still planning on using that one? Is that what you're thinking?
Yeah, I think that we should. I mean,
Okay.
I think that unless if there's some other, reason that there's a better use for that site, I think it's the perfect site for a treatment plant, personally.
I've always thought it was, just the Corps wasn't wild about it.
Yeah, well, so they're not gonna let us discharge at that location. We have to take our discharge all the way up Big Run Road, and then east and a little bit south on 3637 and into that cove that's on the east branch of Alum Creek.
Mm-hmm.
So that's still the plan.
Okay.
That's still what we would move forward with. There's really no good location to take the effluent further north because of the issues with the EPA and not having the point source allocation through the TMDL in Big Run north of 3637. So it would probably be, hard pressed to find a site that's any better than what we already have, especially with all the natural screening we have with all the trees around that whole site. So that's the current goal, is to continue forward with the same site.
And that won't add substantial cost? Or will?
No, I think we would add substantial cost and time to try to find a different site. Because then you're back to the drawing board on working with an owner and going through the due diligence process on the site with the soil borings and things like
You
that.
have to start over, basically.
Yeah, right.
Tiffany, that orange part in Harlem then goes all the way to the dam, to Hoover?
That was what was outlined in the, let's say, 2006 master plan that was done by the county. It is a different shape than what the city of Columbus shows in their master plan. So I'm currently working on getting a meeting with City of Columbus and just kind of talk through what that service boundary is going to end up looking like. Ultimately, it's likely not going to be real feasible to get all the way over to Hoover in the near term, at least with the service. It's likely going to be the larger parcels that are, bigger, developable ground that we're going to be focusing on to be able to run sewers through those sites. So that'll remain in flux a little bit as we do our our study.
Okay, thank you.
So as far as Central Alum Creek, though, the plan is to finalize those permits this year, 2024, do full-blown design in 2025, and then construction in 2026. That's still the goal on that. Harlem Township, we are going to start doing our internal, kind of in-house sewer service study in 2024. And to be able to stay out ahead of development, we would like to design that trunk sewer, probably in 2025 or as soon as possible. And then have that trunk sewer constructed and ready to go once that tunnel is complete in 2026. We could have our trunk sewer already built to a certain point and then come back and make that connection into the tunnel once they're completed.
Okay. So the plan still is for the city of Columbus to finish that in '26?
Currently, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And you have no reason to believe they won't do that, or you say currently?
Yeah, so I had a meeting with their consultant probably 2 months ago, and I think they said April of 2026 was what they were on target for right now. I believe they were getting ready to, the tunnel boring machine was maybe overseas, and once it was shipped there, they were gonna do like a groundbreaking, something like that. Maybe Tracy, maybe you know more about the specifics of the timing on that. But So yeah, I'll continue to keep you all in the loop on that, but yes, there's no reason to, at this time, to indicate it would be any different than what they've told us in 2026.
Where will that end? The transformer?
Corner of Harlem Road and Smothers Road, right at the county line.
Okay.
And you're coordinating with the Harlem Township strategic plan?
Yep, yes, we are. The Strategic Planning Committee, we've met with them. We plan to meet with them again. They have a kind of a list of parcels that they're working with either developers or the owners to try to look at, what the strategy would be to sewer those. So that's the next step, is for us to meet with that Strategic Planning Committee and, kind of figure out the lay of the land and what we're trying to service up in that area.
Okay. I know they've been working very hard at it for a year plus now. And
Yeah, they seem like they have a lot of really good information, so
Yeah.
we'll certainly keep working hand in hand with them.
And so the construction that's taking place now, right at the corner, pretty much at the corner of Harlem and Smothers, utilities, is that?
That's, the
that's
shaft, that's the
the
tunnel
shaft,
shaft. That's
yeah.
what's being built there, yeah, is a tunnel shaft,
Yeah, okay.
yeah. Yeah, we've gotten some calls about that, asking about the disturbance from the blasting and, that's
How
not
close is the
our
development to that
project yet.
point?
What's that?
How close will the prospective development be to that point? Where the,
So I wish I had a zoom in. There's some larger swaths that we've talked to MI about, it's not real far from there.
right there, very
Yeah.
close?
Yeah,
I
MI's
just
just
wondered
one,
what the
MI's
cost-
just one name, we've
I
let
was
them
just
talk
wondering
to.
what the development cost will be to get it from there to,
So we have put in our capital program, in our 5-year projections, the cost of connecting into the shaft, taking a 42-inch, potentially from that point all the way up to Duncan Run, which is quite a ways north. Can you see this? No, that doesn't work. Duncan Run is quite a ways north, 42 inch is very expensive. So we're looking at the potential option, and of course that would be something we would discuss with you all, of the county doing that work because of the expense that would be associated with it, to get out ahead of the development, similar to what we did in Berlin Business Park, just depending on how the zoning and all of that goes, but that would certainly be an option.
and can county get paid back by surcharges on capacity fees, or what's your
Yeah,
expectation?
we could look at different mechanisms, yes. All right, so now I'm gonna flip over and talk about treatment plant construction projects. This is where we're really spending the bulk of our time right now, is we're hitting all but 3 of the plants in the county, all the 3 tiniest plants, I should say, are the only 3 that we're not touching in the next several years. So the top project is the OECC Progressive Design Build, which is the $46 million project. The green is showing the construction schedule. So you can see we're going to be continuing to do construction on that project through 2025. Then the package plant project is $10 million, as well as the package plant force main project is $5.1. That project is just wrapping up bidding, getting ready to go into construction. So throughout 2024, we'll be in construction on that project as well. And then the North Star Construction Manager at Risk, which is to get that full-blown NPDES permit with the EPA, is $4.5 million. That will be a cost-sharing arrangement with Nationwide because they will be able to eliminate their spray fields with that project. Likely a 75-25 split that we pay 25% of that cost. That project will also, you'll see the green indicating construction in 2024. And then finally, the Allen Creek UV project is a little under $5 million. That project is also going to be in construction next year. So it's almost $70 million worth of work that we're really trying to continue to manage 95% of that work in-house. I think we're going to be strapped next year, but it's something that we're excited to do these projects, and we don't really want to get consultants involved unless we absolutely need to on the construction side. So that's the plan with that work. So just wanted to kind of highlight what we had going on that for next year. And then this is the map of where those projects are located. The larger purple dots are the plants that we're doing construction projects. So up in the northeast corner is the North Star project, which is $4.5 million. And then just south of it, you can see a little dot that doesn't have anything on it. That's Bentry, just to indicate that there's a plant there that we're not doing any work at. And then over on the far east, you'll see the Hoover Woods plant. just east of
Okay.
Hoover. We're not doing anything at that plant either. Eventually, we would want to decommission that plant and send that flow down to the tunnel. And then you've got the Elm Creek plant, which is the $4.8 million project. And then OECC is the $46.3 million project. And then over on the west side, we have, on the far north, the $4 million Lower Scioto. $8 million is Scioto Reserve, which is becoming a pump station, decommissioning that plant and running a force main up to the Lower Scioto plant. And then just south of there is our Scioto Hills plant that we're not touching, but we are actually doing the I&I project that I've had on session a few times to reduce the flows into that plant, which will be a significant help. And then finally, over on the far west, we have Tartan Fields as another $4 million to upgrade that plant.
When we decommission a plant, like we're talking about soda, we just close it up, or do we have another use for it, or is it?
So we have an agreement with the developer where the land would be reverted back to them. So the plan is that we're gonna decommission the plant fully. The developer wanted us to keep the building, but the building is in really bad shape. When the developer originally built it, they didn't use either stainless steel or galvanized steel, so it's a lot of rusting happening inside of the building to the point where it's deteriorated pretty bad. So we feel like we need to just get rid of the building, cave in the tanks, and essentially just leave them with a grassed area where there used to be a building there. So it'll probably be, nicer looking on that site as well, since I don't know which hole that is on Scioto Reserve, but it, backs right up to the golf course there. So.
Are we going to have to do any borrowing, for example, this $46 million project? Are we going to be able to?
We
That's
are,
the
yes.
expectation?
We already have an OWDA loan on the $46 million project. That was something that Justin helped us out with when he started here. I believe we're borrowing 40-ish, $37 million of the 46, and that would be the only borrowing that we have currently planned on the books at all until eventually the new plant.
Do we have any coming off the books?
We do.
Comparable amount, or?
Yeah, one ends this year. The last payment on the 2017 bonds is this year.
And that was like a $3.6 million payment, right,
Mhm.
annually? Yeah, so that'll come off the books, and then this new one would go on. All right, and I'm gonna turn it over to Eric to talk about some of the specifics of all the plant work we have going on.
I'm gonna bring up a video real quick. Hopefully I can get this started fast. Okay, can you guys see that in your monitors up there? So
Yeah.
this is OECC 315 there in the foreground, and the video is kind of sped up so we can get through this, but this is our internal drone footage we've got, which is pretty helpful. This is the new screen building here. There'll be chemical storage, odor control, and you can see the metal insides. Those are the top of the screens that pull off all all kinds of things that float in the sewer, right? So that's what that's for. Those pull that out, we can take it to landfill. This is a gravity splitter box. So all the flow coming into the plant will come here, and we can direct it anywhere in the aeration tanks. This is the laydown yard. That'll all be grass in a couple of years, but these are the existing aeration tanks. And we've retrofitted them with, this is really exciting, what you're looking at. There's automated DO that's gonna be going in. New mixers are already in there. Those are the blue things. The different control zones, we can run a 4- and 5-stage Bardenfo treatment process in here. And then there's also step feed that's happening. They're gonna be able to happen with wet weather flow. So we're gonna have a lot of control over this. The guys are just doing an amazing job keeping this thing running. We've got temporary limits. They've got a tiny plant to put all this water through, and it's a really significant effort. The clarifiers, which you'll see here for a second, those are getting replaced, and the mechanisms inside are getting replaced in 2024. Come around to the back of the plant, and that silver square there is the thickening waste activated sludge basin. We're going to be able to thicken the sludge more, so there's less water, and then we'll dewater it. If you guys all recall, I've been here a couple of Christmases asking for emergency funds for dewatering equipment.
Oh.
This will add to our storage volume, so that we'll probably have a whole nother month without, like if all the equipment goes down, again, which we're getting redundant equipment, so we shouldn't have those issues in the future, but that's what that is. And then we added in a brand-new grip pad, which is back here in the back 40, and it smells worse than it looks. This is, we fill this up a lot. Everything you're looking came from routine cleaning of pump stations and things like that. So this is where we can dry it out and take it to the landfill. There's not a whole lot of dump options in the area anymore, and Columbus has been more restrictive on what they receive, so that's going to be really helpful. The opening here, the concrete opening, that's the old control building. There was a building there. We took it down, we took the slab off, and there's currently off to the right here, this is our most prized possession. This is our temporary bypass setup. There's about 5 pumps in there, a lot of controls, and this thing is being monitored like a lot, 2 or 3 times a day. Every morning it gets cleaned out. This is pushing all the flow that comes into the plant. So this is like really critical. That's like the heartbeat of the plant right there. We cannot wait to take it offline when the new wet well gets finished, which I think this will go into it a little bit. Again, sorry for the speed, but so you can see the flooring in there. They're basically bracing this. They're going to remove all the flooring, and you're going to have a large wet well. Now a large wet well that will handle all the flow coming into the plant. Being able to repurpose this is what took this from like a $60-some million job down to the $40 million. And instead of building in the field next to it by the grip pad, and that was before concrete prices skyrocketed. So this has been, it's going really well so far. And then we'll just come down here to the front of the plant and give you a perspective of how close the new building is going to be to 315 there. I wanted it to pause. Well, there will be screening set up, and with the soil and some trees planted and things like that. There'll be basically to mask that whole area a little bit. Okay. So we're about 52% spent on the project.
2 years to go according to this, right?
What's that?
2 years to finish it?
Yes. Yeah, it's definitely a 3 to 5 year project, or 3 to 4 year project. We were in design for 2 or 3 years before that. So that was one thing. I'll contrast that in a minute to how we've handled Allen Creek, which has received similar upgrades. The whole plan, it's reached its 20, 30 year design life. Things need to be replaced. Starting in the new things that are going in 24, the cloth media filters, which will help out all over the place. Some solids handling, repurposing EQ tanks that we have on the site. We're actually going to turn those into real EQ tanks, which we haven't had there. When we get a significant amount of rain, it makes it really hard to store all that stuff. You can't push it through. You'll lose your biology and all this. So it's a really something we're really looking forward to. So we can't wait. We're struggling day to day, and that was planned. It's a planned struggle. It's very difficult to do what we're doing, but by the end of next year, we're going to be looking a lot better. So Allen Creek, on the other hand, we started with some upgrades in 2014, and I'm going to go through the project here at the end, the $4.8 million project that we have going on right now. So the first phase of this were automated DO controls here in the blue. I just kind of shaded some of these areas so you can see the different parts of the plant that we touched. And also, it's neat, you can see Allen Creek there in the background of the picture, the reservoir. New mixers and SCADA, which is what controls the plant, which is a pretty big undertaking. The next project were clarifier upgrades. We also made it possible to use any aeration tank with any clarifier. Before, you could use one side of the plant or the other, and that was very limiting in what we were able to do, considering the equipment was also really taxed. The Lower Allen Creek relief pump station project with a force main. Now we have 2 force mains coming in. Allen Creek pump station got an upgrade, and we had headworks improvement, including a new odor control unit. So the project that we're going to start and finish this year, it's the last piece. So for the most part, UV upgrades, for the disinfection. We're gonna decommission the filter building, which we've been working on with EPA for several years. We get really good treatment in the plant, so the filters aren't needed at the moment. That'll save us a lot in capital, right, and O&M. Final phase of the solid aeration, we'll have even more storage there, and then HVAC, new furnaces in all the buildings. The problem with the furnaces now, they're water furnaces and they cost a lot to maintain. We've had to replace a couple that we were forced to. We had too much time before this upgrade, and they were very expensive. So Allen Creek, this is 10 years we've gone through, most of the plant, and it's been really nice to, we put things on a rotating basis, so we operate different tanks and pumps and exercise the valves. That hasn't happened consistently since the build, so there were some areas of the plant that were not really functional. So we're really trying to protect our assets that we've purchased. I'll fly through these. The package plant project, you guys have seen this layout before, but it's gonna touch several package plants and decommissioning one, a new pump station. We should be opening that bid in the middle of the month here. We have a contractor under contract for the force main, so we're gonna be able to start that soon. And then the North Star MPDS upgrade project, which I can go into more details if you wanna hear some more about that, but that's the cost share with Nationwide. And I'll finish here with the solid waste transfer station. So our budget numbers, we have 2.7 million in the bank. We didn't contribute any to the, any funds to the design, build, finance, operate contract. We have a projected revenue at the end of this year at around 270,000. And we are budgeting 300,000 for next year, and that's basically simply assuming a 10% increase in volume. So far, we're a month into operation of the plant, or the new transfer station, and they usually get about 250 tons a day. They're seeing 350 plus. So
That's
Really?
That's
Yeah.
huge.
yeah, now they have
Wow.
not adjusted the rates yet because we're still waiting on the final GMP, but the rates will go up, several dollars a ton, which is planned, but waiting on that final number. When we get the final GMP, we'll be back during session to finalize that. The flow might slow down with an increase in fees, but we'll see what happens.
So the first
Wow.
month of about 50% increase?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's looking that way. It's looking that way. It's up 30-40%, and it fluctuates different days, so they can just move a lot of folks in and out of there. And because of the larger square footage, they have to spend less time, directing traffic, I guess, which takes away from the customers being able to drop. So when someone finds out they can get 2 more loads a day, then their business increases too. So.
Wow.
Yeah, it's been good, and they're still tweaking some things, and we're still working with them. They have a couple things to finish, stormwater, which is actually going in like this week, like right now. Some stormwater controls and some fencing. The expenses that we've got for next year, the transfer station include, we've got to close down the old site. We've, working with EPA and the Delaware County Health District to close down the site, to get all the paperwork finalized for that. And then DKMM is interested probably in April, and I'll bring more information to you all. They're interested in having an electronic and hazardous waste drop site at the old tip floor. And that would be staffed a couple of days a week and on a Saturday, but they would take care of, we would just provide the space.
Okay.
So that is all I have for the transfer station, unless you all have any more.
Yeah, transfer station obviously is a great facility, and it's really encouraging that the volume is up, usage is up so much. Or initially, I know it could settle down, but good.
Yeah,
to
we'll
see.
keep an eye on it. Yeah.
And then the electronic, I know that's not us, but DKMM
Right.
eventually.
Yeah, it's a service they wanted to provide. They have, I believe they're doing it in Mount Vernon right now.
Okay.
And they've got a good site there, and they have the funding to do this. They staff it. I think they subbed that out to Veolia, if I'm not mistaken, but yeah, it'll be a good use of the site.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Great.
Yeah, wow.
Thank
And
you.
I think that is our
Boy.
presentation.
Okay.
Any questions?
Tiffany, anything else then?
No,
Did
no,
for-
that, we'll take, if you have any questions about any of the projects or things we have going on.
Questions? Tracy, Dawn, Samara?
I think I've kind of asked the questions we've gone along. I think you
Yeah.
guys did a great job of planning and preparing and getting us
Oh, yeah.
where we need to be long-term. And obviously, the Allen Creek plant's important to all of us. And so we asked that question and re-asking it, and I'm sure you're tired of hearing it already. But it just shows we are interested and we see the value of that going forward and you get to the end zone.
Yep, yeah, I totally agree. I mean, we'll be spending a lot of time working on making sure we get those permits and keep that project moving.
I think the upgrades that are taking place, I mean, it's just great. Boy,
Yeah, it's a lot of work over the next few years to get all these
Yeah.
projects to the finish line, but I think, you know, the operators are gonna be, you know,
right.
set up for the next decade or then some, you know, with all these plants being, you know, having a lot of brand-new components, which is gonna
Yes.
be, you know,
Gosh.
really helpful.
Oh, that's great.
Will it create some labor efficiencies when we get through this, or just not about the same?
I think the majority of the projects that we're doing are useful life upgrades, that are just needed because, you know, like a lot of the OECC plant was built in the 70s and then upgraded in the 90s. So, you know, a lot of this stuff is 30-plus years old, even the newer stuff is 30-plus years old. So, same thing with Tartan Fields, you know, eliminating Scioto Reserve, that will obviously create some efficiencies because we don't have to staff that plant not 24/7, but 40 hours a week anymore. So we'll see a little bit of that, yes, with, you know, naturally with some of these upgrades, that you go from some things being manual to some things no longer having to be, you know, raking a bar screen. You know, it's automatic with the new screens, you know, kind of stuff like that. You will see some of it.
How long?
And continued development.
Right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And the Berlin Business Park in particular, how long would
Yeah.
Central Alum Creek take to construct? Is that a 2-year project?
Probably 2 years, yeah. I would say 2 years is probably a realistic start to finish construction timeframe.
Okay.
Design of that project will take some time as well, at least a year, just because of the, you know, the magnitude of the project itself. But once we get these permits, it'll feel like no time at all.
Yeah, compared to the lead up. I didn't have any other questions, Commissioner Lewis?
I don't.
Cheryl, any other? Okay.
Appreciate the job you're all three doing.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you
Yes,
very much.
Thank you so much.
Continue to do outstanding
And the
work.
whole staff.
Yeah,
Yep, the
and
whole
thank you,
team.
of course, you know, we say this every year, we appreciate your support, and we throw these huge dollar amounts up on the screen, and you all get behind what we're doing, and we appreciate that.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you, Gina.
You're welcome. I apologize for being a few minutes late.
Oh, no problem.
You were late, we started early, so.
Yeah, we
I
did.
was
Yeah, we
stuck in that traffic at the point.
Oh,
It took me
no.
Yeah.
22
Yeah.
minutes to get over here.
Oh, boy.
So I know you do a lot of the work behind this, so I appreciate that. Thank
She
you.
does, and I appreciate you guys noticing that, because this wouldn't come together as smoothly as it does without Gina working behind the scenes.
Yep.
Yeah,
How do you like the Bixby campus?
I love it.
yeah, it's nice.
A little bit nicer?
Definitely.
Tiffany said she didn't like our office.
Yeah.
Did I misunderstand you?
No comment.
All right, well, thanks, everybody. So we will recess until Thursday at 1:30? 3:30? 3.
o'clock.
We have one or we have two on Thursday?
We don't know yet when we are rescheduling the engineer's office too, but there's a potential that they may be able to come Thursday.
Should we make it earlier? Are they gonna come before 3?
I don't think it will be earlier.
Okay.
I think there's a conflict.
Okay. No problem. So we recess until Thursday at 3.
Correct.
All right, we're in recess.